What up, YouTube? Web Mike here, and a lot of what I've talked about so far has been movies, shows, TVs, maybe some video games here and there, but there's another passion of mine that I haven't talked about yet, and that's tabletop role-playing games. You know, the ones where you sit down at a table with other people, pen and paper, dice, and that is probably the highest form of entertainment and interactive and collaborative storytelling. Sure, like there's great movies, shows, and television. They really stimulate your thinking, but you're a passive observer. You can't affect anything that's happening. Video games and live streams are the next step up because you do have the ability to influence things, but there's only so much that can happen in the limited time based on time constraints if you're on a live stream or programming or coding limitations on a video game. But a role-playing game gives you the chance to have so much opportunities. Sure, you can have a lot of the same ideas, such as agree, disagree, be neutral, or try to compromise. But there's often that time when it's asked, what do you say? And that's what really prompts the player or cast member to really think about what they're doing. Now, I got into role-playing games starting with Knights of the Old Republic, KOTOR, the Star Wars game. Excellent. Beautiful. And when I looked more into the mechanics behind it, I realized it was based off of an old form of Dungeons and Dragons. And I previously heard this again when I was looking more into and I learned about Neverwinter Nights. However, I didn't really have anybody online to play that with, and there weren't people in real life that were playing Dungeons and Dragons around me, so I was left to wander until I got to college and discovered Cinematic Unisystem that my one friend was playing, and it is a system that can run literally everything. In the game I hopped in on towards the end, there was elements of Marvel, DC, God of War, RoboCop, Hellsing the anime. Anything that could fit in what the guy was running was able to be run in that story. I myself played a foot ninja. I didn't expect it to go so well, but it did. And Cinematic Unisystem isn't actually the first thing. Unisystem has been around longer before that, like Conspiracy X, Armageddon, Witchcraft. But the one I got in on was called Cinematic because it was based off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, its spinoff, and Army of Darkness, the Evil Dead movie. Oof. Was I in love since then. And even to this day. Now, there's two elements that come into playing this. There's the director and the cast members. The director is the one that's responsible for making sure the world works, controlling non-player characters, and otherwise making sure that he or she acts as a good intermediary for the players in the world. Now, the cast members are the ones who sit at the table and are the more active members of the group. Now, in other game terms, they would be the dungeon master or game master and players. Now, I personally, maybe it's because I got in on Cinematic Unisystem, but I like thinking of it as directors and cast members because sure, as the director, I technically hold more power than they ever will, but I want to give them the chance to feel they have the ability to influence everything, because chances are, while I have a story in mind, they and the chaos that could ensue from free will could make for a better story than I ever planned. And we see this in real life with George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, when they were doing Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the proper movie name. Indiana Jones was supposed to have this big sword fight with this guy with a scimitar, but what did we see when we got to the movie theater? Indiana Jones just shoots the guy. And that made for a better story element because it was more believable, or whatever else you want to say. And it worked. And we saw it again with Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Princess Leia, as Han Solo is being lowered, she confesses her love for him, says, "I love you." And what's his response? "I know. Again, that wasn't in the script. Harrison Ford just again decided that, hey, this is better for the story. And the directors, sure they had their script, but they looked at what happened and they were able to go, wow, this is better. We're going to stick with it. And that's what I feel has to happen with role-playing games, because the first one I tried to run as director, it was an Assassin's Creed game, didn't last so long. Started out pretty well, didn't really last so long. I wasn't that good at world building, some character interactions, and there was this one bit where they were trying to uncover a mole in the group, and it was between 3 NPCs, and the one that they were most suspicious of was the one I didn't want them to kill, because A, he was innocent, and B, he would be instrumental in keeping their operations active. So I kept having things being introduced that would try to save him. And then I began to realize, like I said, it didn't last long. I began to realize this should not be happening. I'm going to fold this, and then I'm going to start a new one. Lo and behold, that would go on to be close to my magnum opus. It was a Fallout game that ran for 3 to 4 years across 3 different groups. And it might resume again someday. I still have all the notes. I could do it again. And also, that game provided a unique experience for every Fallout fan that played that, because I made that irrespective of whatever Fallout 4 was going to happen. So when other people who weren't my players would ask, "Hey Mike, why didn't you make note of the Institute or the Railway or the Minutemen?" I'm like, well, first off, my setting was in Pennsylvania, not Massachusetts or wherever Fallout 4 is happening. And also, I made it without any knowledge of what Fallout 4 was going to happen. So, sure, it's not canon, but my players still are going to remember that for a long, long, long time. I still get, even though it's years later, I still get people saying, "Man, I remember when that happened. Man, I remember what we did at the Philadelphia Zoo. Man, what a game." And true enough, I mean, yeah, it is a game, but there's also the story that came out of it. There's the improvement of all the players and myself that came about because of it, because I had to think about, okay, world building. How does this world work? Is there an economy? What's valued? What isn't? Now, granted, it's not what it would be in the modern day, but there is a barter system and economy in the Fallout setting. But you got to think about these things, because you have to make something people want to play in. And in the course of this, and again, not just is this better for its interactive qualities, but no matter what level you're in, you have to be good at rules comprehension, language, mathematics, and a host of other things to be good at this role-playing. Now, I didn't have to take an acting course. I did it as an elective, and it ended up helping me grasp more of what to do with this. I didn't have to take a creative writing course. I took it as an elective, but it helped me in this, and I never regret it. But that's my take on role-playing games. Have any of you taken any? Drop them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I thank you for watching this long. Please consider dropping a like. But until next time, Web Mike out.